conference championship odds have been released. Our friends at FanDuel have rung the bell, they've sent up the bat signal, and we have answered because we got odds on all the major conferences now. And I want to start with the Big Ten because this one is the one where I wondered, okay, are we going to put Ohio State at the top of these odds? Well, the answer is yes. Ohio State currently the FanDuel betting favorite to win the Big Ten this upcoming year. But who was number 2 going to be? And it's pretty clear. It's Oregon at plus 250, and then Michigan and Penn State. Okay, so now if you're listening on podcast, I'm going to do my best to frame this up. Michigan's plus 460, Penn State plus 600. So then remember last month when we did the tier of programs in the Big Ten, and I got a lot of pushback because I said I didn't think that USC was in tier 1. Now, this is not apples to that, but in terms of odds this year, there is a huge shelf. There's a drop-off in the Big Ten after the top 4. And then USC has the 5th best odds to win the conference, but they're all the way down at plus 2,300. And so that's huge disparity in odds. Top 4 group of 4 in the tier 1, and then everyone else. We're going to talk about Lincoln Riley and USC a little bit later on, but it's just I always wonder in the Big Ten. It's been this way for a while. Where is that drop off? And it looks like odds makers have that drop off before you get to USC. Now, what about the ACC? This time last year, when these odds got released, the biggest takeaway was, wow, for the first time, someone's got the same odds as Clemson does. And that's the case again this year, only it may surprise you in the opposite direction. I think there probably is a sizable portion of the college football public that expects Florida State to be the prohibitive favorite in this conference. Well, that may be the case in preview magazine season. That is not the case in the desert because Clemson and Florida State, yet again, have the same odds. It's Miami behind them at plus 450, then Louisville at plus 470, and that's the drop-off in the ACC because you got to go down to plus 14 and plus 1,600 odds, respectively, to get NC State and SMU in there. How about North Carolina, all the way down there at plus 2,200? Very, very uncertain immediate future for that program, and of course, you're going to have the question about Mac Brown every year. I won't say it's an unfair question. It's just, people want to know. As you get up there in age a little bit, you had Drake May there, and by all accounts, probably underachieved by having that kind of talent there. And now he's gone, and is the rest of your roster special? You got to change it, defensive coordinator as well. So they're at plus 2,200. But the other school I wanted to look for, Virginia Tech, got better odds right now than North Carolina. Virginia Tech at plus 2,000. The SEC has some very, very notable odds at the top of the board. Georgia is going to be number 1. Texas is going to be number 2. Ole Miss has the 3rd best odds to win the SEC at plus 650. And then it's LSU and Bama with the same odds in the 4 and 5 position at plus 950. And I need to remind you, this upcoming year, there are no divisions. So it's just we play the schedule and we take the best 2 and put them in Atlanta. So this is not like it used to be, where Kentucky or South Carolina may have a little bit inflated odds because they're in a more winnable conference, whereas the SEC West was going to be a little bit deeper. It's not that way anymore. So it's just straight up odds to win the conference. Tennessee's down there at plus 1,100. I'll tell you, the other thing that stood out to me was Oklahoma's all the way down at plus 4,000. That's the 9th best odds to win the conference. Texas comes in there with the 2nd best odds. That's going to change, but I can assure you Oklahoma's not going to overtake Texas in the odds market. Now, it didn't matter last year in the Big 12 because they beat them on the field, and Texas ended up winning the conference anyway. So let's keep an eye on that. Which one do you think fluctuates, by the way? I think Missouri money is going to come in. That's just me personally. In the Big 12, this one's got the makings of the most insane conference race in all of college football this upcoming year. You saw the rest of the conferences I showed you where there is a top 3 or top 4, and then there's a big drop-off. Here, you got to go 10 teams deep before you get to the real big drop-off. I'm going to read them in order. Utah, Kansas State, Kansas, Arizona, Texas Tech, UCF, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, TCU, West Virginia. They've all got odds, plus 1,900 or better. Then there's a drop-off. Then you get to your Colorados and your Baylors and your Cincinnatis, Houston with the worst odds in the conference, and new coaching staff there. That one right there, that conference, you can look at one of two ways. You could either look at it and say, well, there's no true tier 1 big dog in that conference. Okay, maybe you're right. Or you could look at it and say, well, hey, relative to what everyone else has, everything looks competitive. Everything looks parity driven. What people want college football to be, and it never will be, they could actually get if they just watched the Big 12 this year. Because that right there is no massive have, and there is no huge group of massive have-nots. That conference is about as equitably built in terms of resource and recruiting advantage as you could build a conference. Sure, if you're located in Houston, Texas, you do have an edge on someone located in Ames, Iowa when it comes to talent acquisition, but I would argue a lot of the WAC used to have an edge on Boise State, and they still found a way to dominate the conference. It wasn't just because of the color of their football field anyway. Utah, should be noted, has entered the Big 12 and immediately grabbed the number 1 position in the odds market. Now, it's close. Kansas State's right there neck and neck with them, but Utah is not to be messed with, not to be trifled with, if you will, as they walk into the conference.